All right, so let's start the chapter on water resources. Now, in the introduction of the chapter. So, you already know that three-fourths of the Earth's surface is covered with water, but only a small proportion of it accounts for fresh water that can be put to use. Now, this fresh water is mainly obtained from the surface runoff and the groundwater that is continually being renewed and recharged through the hydrological cycle. So now you need to understand the hydrological cycle, what it is, how the water is renewed. If you are not aware of this, please take some time and refer to your earlier books on the hydrological cycle. All water moves within the hydrological cycle, ensuring that water is a renewable resource. So, the main idea is water renews through the hydrological cycle. Now, you might wonder if the three-fourth of the world is covered with water and water is a renewable resource. So, the natural question is how is it that countries and regions around the globe suffer from water scarcity? In fact, it is predicted that by 2025, so which is like in 2 years from now, nearly 2 billion people will live in absolute water scarcity. So as of today, the world's population is, let's say, roughly 7 to 7.5 billion. So let's assume that in 2025 you will have people roughly 8 billion people, and if around 2 billion people they face water scarcity, that's about 25% of the world's population, right? So one in every fourth person in this world is going to suffer from this. That's a huge number, and therefore it is a big problem that needs to be managed not just in India but also in the other regions where this is an acute issue. So let us then understand what is water scarcity and then try to make a case for the need for water conservation as well as management. Now, given the abundance and renewability of water, it is difficult to imagine that we may suffer from water scarcity. That is right, because on a daily basis, you just get it. You have the water that you need, and so on. However, the moment we speak of water shortages, we immediately associate it with some regions that have low rainfall or those that are drought prone. We instantaneously visualize the deserts of Rajasthan and women balancing many matkas or the earthen pots that are used for collecting and storing water and traveling along the distances to get water. Now, it is true that the availability of water resources varies over space and time, mainly due to the variations in the seasonal and annual precipitation. But water scarcity, in most cases, is caused by overexploitation, excessive use, and unequal access to water among different social groups. So, this is the key kind of reasons why we have the problem of water scarcity: overexploitation, excessive use, and unequal access to water amongst different social groups. So, where is then water scarcity likely to occur? Now, as you would have read in the hydrological cycle in your books earlier, fresh water can be obtained directly from precipitation, surface runoff, and groundwater. Now, is it possible that an area or a region may have ample water resources but is still facing water scarcity? Think about it. Many of our cities are such examples. So, water scarcity may be an outcome of a large and growing population and consequent demands for water and unequal access to it. So, a large population, this is a key idea here, a large population requires more water not only for domestic use but also you need to produce food for that large population. Okay, so not only for the consumption but also for the production of food. Hence, to facilitate higher food grain production, water resources are being overexploited to expand irrigated areas for dry season agriculture. So normally agriculture is dependent, very seasonal. Whenever you have rain, you make use of those rains, the natural rains, so that you can grow the food. But because of the increase in population, you need to continue irrigation, and therefore you have to provide water for irrigation even during out of season, which is called as the dry season agriculture. Now, irrigated agriculture is the largest consumer of water. So, this is another key point for you to be aware of. So, now it is needed to revolutionize the agriculture through developing drought resistant crops and dry farming techniques. And you might have seen this in many advertisements that most farmers, they have their own wells and tube wells in their farms for irrigation to increase their produce. But have you ever wondered what this could result in? It could really lead to falling groundwater levels, adversely affecting water availability and flood security of the people. Now, let us look at some examples of water scarcity. So, here is one picture which shows that a boy is collecting drinking water in Kolkata. So, the life in the city and its adjacent districts was paralyzed as the rain kept on falling overnight, leading to a record of 180 millimeters, which flooded a vast area and disrupted the traffic. Okay, the another example here is, then there was an earthquake in Kashmir, and you can see that here is a woman who's carrying water in the snow in a devastated village. This is not easy. It's a quite a difficult problem. And then, of course, you also have this another example where you can see that there are many women who are kind of standing just for drinking water. So let's carry on. What happened to the the like what were some of the causes that led to the water scarcity, especially after the independence? So post-independent India witnessed intensive industrialization and urbanization, creating vast opportunities for the people, us. Today, large industrial houses are as commonplace as industrial units of many MNCs, that is, multinational corporations. The ever increasing number of industries, so this is one of the reasons, has made matters worse by exerting pressure on the existing freshwater resources. So, the first thing was the intensive industrialization and urbanization. Okay, followed by that, there is still an increasing number of industries which have even aggravated this, putting more pressure on the existing freshwater resources. Now, industries, apart from being heavy use of water, also require power to run them, and much of this energy comes from hydroelectric power. So, today in India, hydroelectric power contributes approximately 22% of the total electricity produced. Moreover, multiplying urban centers with large dense populations and urban lifestyles have not only added to water and energy requirements but have further aggravated the problem. So the third thing is the that of the power. Right? The third reason is that not only do these need water, they also need power, which in turn also one of the one of the sources of power is hydroelectric, which is based on water. And the fourth one is urban centers with dense populations and urban lifestyles have put this pressure on the water. Now, if you look at the housing societies or colonies in the cities, you would find that most of these have their own groundwater pumping devices to meet the water needs. And not surprisingly, we find that the fragile water resources are being overexploited and have caused their depletion in several of these cities. In fact, you might even be aware of this in your own area or some of your friends that you may have talked to. So far we have only discussed on the quantitative aspects of water scarcity. Now let us consider another situation where water is sufficiently available to meet the needs of the people, but the area still suffers from water scarcity. Now, so we looked at the quantitative aspects, which were the four that we discussed earlier. What are the other aspects? So the scarcity may be due to bad quality of water. So this is number one reason. Lately, there has been a growing concern that even if there is ample water to meet the needs of the people, much of it may be polluted by domestic and industrial wastes, chemicals, pesticides, fertilizers used in agriculture, thus making it hazardous for human use. Okay, so what really pollutes the water, the quality of the water, is all these industrial waste, not just industrial waste but also the domestic waste as well. Now, the government of India has given highest priority to improve the quality of life and enhance the ease of living of people, especially those living in the rural areas, by announcing the Jal Jeevan Mission (JJM). You might want to look out a little bit more on what is the what is the purpose of the Jal Jeevan Mission and where it has what difference it has made. So the goal of the JJM is to enable every rural household to get assured supply of potable means drinkable, piped water at a service level of 55 liters per capita per day regularly on a long term basis by ensuring functionality of the tap water connections. You might want to think, why is this important, and why do we think that it is the rural households that do not get access to good water? You might want to think about this a little bit as you explore this chapter further. Now, let's look at this Citizen's Fifth Report from 1999, which says India's rivers, especially the smaller ones, have all turned into toxic streams. And even the big ones like the Ganga and Yamuna are far from being pure. The assault on India's rivers from population growth, agricultural modernization, urbanization, and industrialization is enormous and growing by the day. This entire life stands threatened. So you can see how this report here kind of highlighted some of the issues that we have already discussed in the earlier text. It talks about population growth as one reason, agricultural modernization, urbanization as a third reason, and the industrialization. So these are the kind of themes that contribute to water scarcity, and it also seems from this text that it is the rural areas or the rural household are the one that also get impacted a bit more than the more affluent, let's say, regions of the a particular, I would say, town or a city. So you may already have realized that the need of the hour is to conserve and manage our water resources, to safeguard ourselves from health hazards, to ensure food security, continuation of our livelihoods and productive activities, and also to prevent degradation of natural ecosystem. Or in short, to maintain a good quality of life, we do need to maintain and conserve our water resources. So over exploitation, which means using more than necessary, using out of greed and carelessness and not the need, and the mismanagement of water resources will really impoverish this resource and cause ecological crisis that may have a profound impact on our lives. Okay, so I think that we will conclude this video here. In the next video, we will continue the conversation and start looking at what are the reasons why making the argument for uh, managing and conserving water resources more actively through river projects and water resources management.